So, one day I was bored and decided to remake some levels on the upcoming levels list. And now it's a video, and I'm going to make an entire level made up of upcoming levels that are top 50 or higher. And our first level is Transhumanist by 0SR. First we had to make was the gameplay, so I decided to make my gameplay based off 3 seconds shown in the preview. The first being the cube part, with mini cube and 2x speed gameplay, next being the wave, and I just did slow gameplay. Finally, the ship, which is very I guess, spiritual. So I started off the decoration by just trying to replicate the block designs, which I did pretty well. Then I added a bunch of pulses, ordered them for some reason. But honestly, so far, I didn't really like what I was doing, and the foreground was pretty bad. The background was very compared to the original Transhumanist. I mean, I knew this part wasn't going to be as good as the original Transhumanist, but I wanted to at least try to replicate the feel of it. So after all my struggles, I decided to lock in and spent the next 4 hours on building this, and I finally got a lot of progress. And now here is the part so far. As you can see, I added a little bit of my own stuff into the mix, such as the pulsing blocks on the backdrops of the blocks spinning around, as well as a foreground that doesn't fully match the original, but I also made it so it has the outlines of the block and some gray blocks inside. I just think they look well as a foreground compared to the start. Now for the wave blocks, I decided that I was just gonna, have some fun with it. If it didn't end out as well as I wanted to, oh well. And that's kind of what happened. To make the wave feel more, I guess, sort of intense, I had to use a lot of pulses into the different colors, which the original does use, but I also had to pulse the background that I made, as well as have a little squiggly line sort of thing, as you can see. And then I also added a big white vignette in front to just capture the feeling of transhumanism, if you get what I'm saying. Now it was time for the final part, in which I just decided to, mess around. And honestly, I think it turned out quite well. I used outlines of blocks and transparent blocks to make these sort of majestic or mystical floating lower opacity structures, while other parts, like the other blocks, have drop shadows to make it seem more 3D than it actually is. The saw blades just have an invisible effect, be it using invisible saw blades and also an eye with glow planted over it. And then I added glow lasers that just light up orbs in the part. And finally, I just made a grayscale and a radial blur to just amplify the spiritualness of the part, or whatever the theme of the original level is going for. With all that said, this is the final part of the level. Also, before this final part, I also added some air deco, like weird glowing laser things, as well as an arrows to just put some my style in there, I guess, just so it isn't a direct terrible ripoff of Transhumanist.